you doing today? Couldn't ask for a better day. Hope is an emotion that we've all affected us. We've all been into a part of where we have hope. I had hope one day. I was on a flight, and when the flight landed for a connection, there's a plane that needs help. So being the nurse that I am, I stood up and I made my way to the back of the plane, about right there. And I found this strong, muscular, handsome young man who was red in the face. His fists were clenched tight till they were white, and his head was bowed down. So I knelt down and I looked up to him and I said, "Sir, how can I help you?" He said, "Get me off this plane now." And I said, "I can do that for you, but I need you to take my hand." You see, I was giving him hope to take my hand, and I'll get you off this plane. As he took my hand, we walked backwards as fast as we could, all the while I'm saying, "Look at me, don't look at anybody else." For you see, he asked the person next to him if they would leave that seat empty. You're in a tight plane, it's enclosed. He was feeling overwhelmed. He told that person, "I'm a wounded veteran." When they looked at him, they said, "Wounded veteran, you have no scars, you have all your limbs. You're not a wounded veteran." And that set off an anxiety attack. As many of our warriors and active military from around the world return home, they have difficulties and challenges of readjustment coming back. Two of the major concerns from Iraq and Afghanistan are post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury. And that's when my dark storm began, when I received a phone call 8 years ago, next Wednesday, 8 years ago, when the voice echoed, "Your son has been critically wounded." And I knew, as a single mom, a widow, that I had to prepare for a mission like no other. For you see, he volunteered that day to prevent anti-coalitions from attacking our troops. When an improvised explosive device was detonated, it immediately severed his left leg, and they tried to save his right, but they had to amputate the right leg above the knee to save his life. He sustained a severe anoxic traumatic brain injury due to multiple cardiac arrests, above the knee bilateral amputations. And what that meant? Not days, not months, but years of rehabilitation. He lost the ability to read and write. He cannot drive. He has short-term, long-term memory losses and cognitive deficits. But I had hope, and I'll tell you why. When I flew to Landstuhl, Germany to walk into that room to see my son, I knew that my strong, muscular, handsome young man, with every type of equipment to maintain life, was struggling. But I whispered in his ear, "Don't you die. You keep on, because I know you can fight. You can do this. Son, you can do this." The next morning, I woke up, went out across the street. We were at the Fisher House. I looked up to the sky and I said, "God, give me a sign. Am I going to bring my son home in a coffin, or will I bring him home alive?" And as I looked over the hospital, there was a rainbow, the most beautiful rainbow I ever saw, and that gave me hope. And I knew that he was going to survive. Survive he did. Went to Walter Reed Army Medical Center, where he began to fight for 15 surgeries to his limbs, multiple infections, but more importantly, we had 2 visitors that came to our room. He didn't know who they were. He was in a coma and he was in and out. Wounded Warrior Project visited, and they gave him a backpack much like this. And if you notice, the insignia, one soldier carrying the other, for you see, they were carrying Shane at that time. And they told him that they were going to be there for anything we needed, for you and your mother, with a mission to honor and empower wounded warriors, with a vision to foster the most well-adjusted, successful wounded service member in the history of any war. Little did we know the significance of that day, ladies and gentlemen, because they played a part throughout his recovery. 8 years today, they are still alongside my son. They provide a tutor for him to read. He's in the Independence Program, one of the most important programs we have. We have 20 programs and services and 5 pilot programs. The Independence Program is for those who have a caregiver that are at risk for institutionalization because if something happens to me, what will happen to Shane? They will bring staff in to make sure that doesn't happen. Along with the Long-Term Support Trust, another new program. Over 300,000 are returning with traumatic brain injuries. And believe me, that's a low count. Over 400,000 suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and sometimes want to take their lives. They estimate 22 soldiers, veterans take their life every 65 minutes. Imagine 22 veterans. So I encourage you to look at our website, woundedwarriorproject.org. Also, everybody should have in their cell phone the Veterans Crisis Line. You be the hope for a veteran. You extend your hand. Don't leave them alone if they need your help. Give them hope. Give them hope. How many mothers do we have out in the audience? Yes. I want to put a shout out to Jaylyn Long and David Long. They have 3 sons serving. We pray for you and hope for your sons' sacrifices because we know what sacrifice is. Thank you. Remember that soldier that I saw on the plane? Last year, Shane and I spoke at the Courage Awards in New York for Wounded Warrior Project. At the end of the stage, a woman waited for me. And as she came up to me, she said, "You helped my husband on a plane one day." And I said, "You've got to be kidding. I've been looking for him. I wondered what happened to him. Is he here?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Take me to him." As she took me back through the crowd of people, a Marine, fully uniform dressed, stood up, extended his arms to me, and he said, "I will never forget how you helped me on that plane when nobody else did." And that said everything for me, because if it's just one warrior that I help, I've done my job on this earth. Wounded Warrior Project is a nonprofit group that began in 2003 when warriors were starting to return home and they saw the gaps that were in the system. So what started out as these backpacks filled with comfort items is now a full holistic rehabilitation throughout the United States. We have offices throughout the United States for not only our warriors, but their families, their spouses, and caregivers such as myself. Shane is amazing. He is now on a sled hockey team. He still continues today with a tutor. He's up to 3rd grade level of reading. Doesn't sound like a lot, but for his severity, it's amazing. He continues to reintegrate with other warriors because I can tell you the best thing for a veteran are other veterans because they understand. If he was up here today, he'd tell you, they're the only ones that understand my heart and what we know, what we've been through. Robertson Davies states it clearly. Extraordinary people survive under the most difficult circumstances, and they become extraordinary because of it. So I encourage each one of you to go to our website, and also for a lifetime of commitment, Wounded Warrior Project stands committed. We have a pledge, imeanit.com, so that you pledge your name to show that we want a lifetime of commitment so they don't stop getting their services that they need, whether it be VA, Wounded Warrior Project, any of those services that need, it's lifelong. It shouldn't be stopped. So please, I encourage each one of you to pledge your name, show your support. God bless those who serve our country in the past, in the present, and in the future. And God bless America. Thank you, Prescott.